Imagine you are driving home at night after a long, exhausting shift. Without warning, a wave of dizziness hits you. The dashboard blurs, your hands start to tremble, and a deep confusion clouds your thoughts. You aren't falling asleep. Your blood sugar has dropped to a dangerously low level. This physical crisis is called severe hypoglycemia. The human brain consumes an immense amount of energy, and it relies almost entirely on blood glucose for fuel. Deprived of that glucose, the brain begins to shut down, and within minutes, critical cognitive functions fail. Surviving everyday life requires a built-in, zero-latency emergency system to catch us before a minor energy dip leads to a catastrophe. If we freeze the external crisis and travel deep inside the body, we find the core of this monitoring system, the pancreas. Nestled inside the pancreas are clusters of tissue known as the islets of Langerhans. Here, microscopic sentinels called alpha cells constantly measure the exact concentration of glucose in your blood. The moment glucose levels drop below the safe threshold, these alpha cells pull the biological alarm. Within seconds, they flood the bloodstream with a powerful emergency rescue hormone, glucagon. By the time you notice your hands trembling on the steering wheel, your cellular sentinels have already detected the danger and deployed the countermeasure. Once released, glucagon rushes through the circulatory system directly towards its primary target organ, the liver. The liver acts as the body's central biological vault, holding massive, tightly packed reserves of complex energy gathered from previous meals. Here, the liver functions as a vault, storing energy in complex chains of interlocking hexagons. When glucagon arrives, it triggers glycogenolysis. It deconstructs these chains into simple glucose units, which flood into the bloodstream, traveling rapidly to the brain to restore function. Glycogenolysis provides the body's fastest defense, buying the brain precious time during an acute energy crash. But an emergency response requires layers of defense. If you skip meals for a long period or engage in intense physical exercise, the liver's vault eventually empties out. When there is no stored energy left to release, glucagon deploys its secondary, sustained defense, gluconeogenesis. This diagram illustrates the liver's shifting operation. Under glucagon, it transforms into an active factory, manufacturing new glucose from scratch. It scavenges raw materials, amino acids, lactate, and glycerol, pulling them in to forge fresh glucose molecules. This manufacturing process reveals the human body as a highly adaptable refinery, capable of synthesizing its own survival resources when external fuel sources run dry. All of that newly manufactured glucose is prioritized for the brain, but the rest of the body's organs still require fuel to operate. To solve this, glucagon triggers lipolysis. It breaks down stored body fat into fatty acids, providing a steady alternative energy source for non-vital organs, while the brain consumes the glucose. Every emergency protocol requires an opposing force to shut it down once the crisis passes. For glucagon, that biological partner and rival is insulin. This balance illustrates the metabolic seesaw. Insulin pushes blood sugar down by storing energy. When fasting, glucagon pulls it back up by mobilizing those reserves. These hormones engage in a continuous negotiation, keeping blood glucose securely between 70 and 140 milligrams per deciliter. Metabolic health requires constant, dynamic physiological movement. It relies entirely on the relentless, unending tug-of-war between storage and release. When the precise calibration of this hormonal seesaw fails, it creates a series of cascading metabolic complications. If the pancreas produces too little glucagon, the body loses its ability to react to a crash. The brain is left defenseless against repeated, dangerously steep drops in blood sugar. A different extreme occurs with a glucagonoma, a rare tumor that can develop on the pancreas. The tumor floods the biological system with unregulated, excessive amounts of glucagon. This forces the liver to constantly dump glucose into the blood, resulting in chronic high blood sugar, rapid weight loss, and a severe skin rash known as necrolytic migratory erythema. Without the check and balance of insulin, glucagon's continuous signal for energy mobilization leads to systemic damage, illustrating the absolute necessity of homeostasis. Recognizing the power of this hormone, medical researchers isolated the mechanism to combat the life-threatening emergencies of diabetes. For people with diabetes taking insulin, the natural safety net can fail. A sudden drop in blood sugar can leave them unconscious or physically unable to swallow fast-acting carbohydrates. To intervene, pharmacological science developed emergency glucagon injections and specialized nasal sprays. Administering this medication perfectly mimics the body's natural response. It bypasses the failing pancreas and triggers the liver to release its glucose reserves, reviving a patient in a matter of minutes. But glucagon's role extends beyond the emergency room. It works quietly in the background, keeping our brains fueled while we sleep, skip breakfast, or endure moments of high stress. Whether synthesized in a sterile lab to reverse a medical crisis, or deployed by microscopic sentinels during a long drive home, glucagon remains a primary guardian of our biological balance.